Chapter 128. The sky was foggy and the sun was cold. Led by Geezer, the Songqing University Martial Arts Club members walked towards a minibus parked at the roadside. Lu Qing carried his own luggage on his back and Yan Zhika's small suitcase on his left hand. His right hand was intertwined with the girl's fingers, warming her delicate palm. They were at the back of the group, whispering sweet nothings as they discussed today's fighting strategy. The minibus driver opened the door of the driver's seat and greeted them enthusiastically. "You're from Songqing University Martial Arts Club, right? You're Coach Shi, right? I'm Little Chui, the one who called you just now. I'm in charge of sending you to the venue." Geezer pulled up the call log and showed it to him. After confirming his identity, he chuckled and said, "Yimo's organization is pretty good. I thought I'd have to take a taxi myself." This was also the question and surprise of Lu Qing and the others. They didn't expect that there would be a person specially assigned to pick them up at the station. The driver said with a smile, "Coach Shi, you're too kind. This is a grand occasion for Yimo's martial arts world. It's not easy to see the hope of winning a division in the preliminaries. Everyone is very enthusiastic and the government has specially sent people to coordinate and organize this." That's true. Yimo's martial arts atmosphere is very strong. If we're talking about overall strength, there's hope for the top 8 in the final stage of the preliminaries. It's just that, TSK, there are a lot of martial arts schools and many families. No one is willing to submit to another, so they can only compete on their own. Geezer had some understanding of Yimo. The driver nodded vigorously and said, "Coach Shi, you're right. If it weren't for Invincible Way coming forward to organize and challenge each and every one of those seniors, Yimo would still be in a state of disunity. Sigh, even so, Fearless Squad has gathered at most 50 to 60% of the talents. If the entire martial arts world were to work together, there would be at least 2 Dan stage fighters and 5 to 6 professional 9th pin fighters." Invincible Way? Sun Jian, who was beside Geezer, asked curiously. The driver chuckled and said, "In our local area, Wei Xingtian's reputation has always been resounding. This time, he won all the challenges and could be considered invincible in Yimo. Hence, everyone gave him the nickname, Invincible Way." My apologies. Alright, everyone, quickly get in the car. It's quite cold outside. Invincible Way. Hearing this nickname, Lu Qing felt a surge of emotion and yearning for it. Yang had 3 districts and 7 counties under its jurisdiction, with a total population of more than 5 million people. Furthermore, the people there were tough and valiant. There were many martial arts schools and many inheritances. To be able to defeat all the local martial artists without defeat, and to be called invincible among the 5 million people, just thinking about it made one feel a sense of pride and heroism. And I have a small goal. I want to team up with Lin K and defeat this Invincible Way. It feels similar to Shushan. There should be a secret government organization. Yan Zhika whispered in Lu Cheng's ear and walked along the aisle to the back row. Lu Qing felt the girl's breath brushing past his ear, tickling his heart. So he moved closer and whispered, "Coach Yan is right. However, the martial arts ethos of Shushan is not as good as that of Yimo, and the strength of our martial artists is also far inferior. Our attitude towards the government is more respectful and obedient." As she breathed in and out, he saw Yan Zhika's small and lovely ears slowly turn red, revealing a little bit of crystal and translucent, which was very beautiful. "Don't come so close." Yan Zhika lightly hit him and moved to the window seat. Lu Qing secretly snickered and unceremoniously occupied the seat next to the girl, ignoring Guo Qing's sad eyes. For this expedition to Yimo, only the main force and substitutes who participated in the preliminaries came. Among the other special training members, only Li Xiaowen, who was in charge of logistics, followed. As for Kai Zhongming and the others, because the school did not reimburse their transportation expenses, and because there was no hope of winning this battle, they were too lazy to travel back and forth and stayed in the school. After sitting down, Yan Zhika suddenly laughed in a low voice and looked up at Geezer in front of her. She lowered her head and said in a voice as soft as a mosquito, "Speaking of which, I still don't know what Coach Shi's full name is. I've been calling him Coach Shi. Huh? Lu Qing listened and took a deep breath. It's true. As a prodisciple, it has been half a year and I still don't know my master's full name. Isn't that too careless? He seriously repented and decided to help his master get the ticket on the way back and peek at his ID card. This kind of thing was not good to ask directly. If his master replied with, "You still don't know," then he would have to find a hole to hide in. At this moment, the minibus started moving. The driver laughed and said, "Actually, there's another reason why I came to pick you up today. If you go by yourself, you probably won't be able to enter the stadium. You might even encounter danger." Won't be able to enter the stadium? Might encounter danger? Lu Qing and the others looked at each other in confusion. Only Shi did not find it strange. He took out a small wine bottle and drank happily. "Why can't we enter?" Guo asked loudly. The driver laughed and said, "You'll know in a while." This wait lasted for 20 minutes. When the minibus arrived at the entrance of Yimo City's martial arts arena, Lu Qing saw a crowd of people. Some of them were holding small trumpets and were happily blowing into them. The humming sound echoed in the surroundings. Some of them were knocking on the nearby iron railings and other objects, making rhythmic thumping sounds. They all looked like they had too much energy. At a glance, there were at least a few thousand people. When there were more than 10,000 people, there was no end in sight. In the open space outside the martial arts stadium, the thousands of people gave the Songqing University Martial Arts Club students a similar feeling. They all subconsciously held their breaths. When the crowd waiting to enter saw the minibus driving to the side door, they understood that the Songqing University Martial Arts Club had arrived. With a whoosh, countless spectators rushed over and surrounded the minibus, leaving only a narrow passage, making the minibus move as slowly as a crawling snail. One face after another moved closer to the window, opened their mouths, and shouted loudly, "My lord, go back! Go back! Go back, Songqing's leeches! Go back, hairless brats!" The sound penetrated the window, deafening. Mouths opened and closed, revealing red tongues and white teeth. Sun Jian, Li Mao, and the others who had not seen much of the world were intimidated. Under this sudden change, they felt like they were in the end of the world, relying on the fragile minibus to resist the countless zombies. They felt like their small boat would be overturned by the wind and waves at any time, causing them to be swallowed miserably. "Idiot, do you believe that I won't beat you up? Go back with your ass between your legs." More and more people gathered. Curses and shouts rose and fell one after another. Some of them were in high spirits, while others were venting the various emotions that they had been suppressing. Their faces had become distorted, and it was enough to scare a child to tears. The silence in the minibus, including Lu Qing, was a little scared. This was a scene they had never experienced before. They felt that the crowd outside would turn into zombies at any time. Suddenly, someone rushed to the side of the slowly moving minibus, and reached out his hands to fiercely slap the glass next to Yenjika's face. Clap, clap, clap. The sound of glass rattling scared Yenjika so much that she shrank back and woke up. She let out a low cry. Seeing this, Lu Qing forgot his fear and stood up abruptly. He squeezed himself to the window, blocking the view and protecting the girl. He bravely and firmly stared at the person who was banging on the window, ready to take action at any time. Facing his cold eyes, the man who was slapping the window was stunned. He did not know why he lost part of his courage, so he put up two thumbs and made a gesture of contempt. Lu Qing guarded by the window, unmoved. His left hand reached back and held Yenjika's soft hand, feeling the girl's heartbeat gradually calming down. After a long time, the minibus finally drove to the side door. The security personnel arrived and separated the crowd, escorting the Songqing University Martial Arts Club members to get off the bus and directly into the locker room. Only then did Li Mao and the others recover. They said with lingering fear, "It's just a preliminaries, is there a need to go to this extent? Compared to Yimo, the atmosphere of Hongluo Martial Arts School's home ground was simply like a kindergarten child playing house. The minibus driver who accompanied them to the locker room smiled and said, "Didn't I say earlier? This is a grand occasion for our Yimo martial arts world." Lu Cheng and Yan Zhika looked at each other, feeling a little sweet and a little emotional. Different away games really had different styles. The martial arts fans of Yimo City who were unable to buy tickets turned on the TV on time to watch the live broadcast. The host said with a face full of smiles, "Thank you to the reporter in front for sending back the footage. My blood was boiling just now. The martial arts atmosphere of our Yimo City is really good. Everyone is also full of enthusiasm for this preliminaries. Alright, we've invited a heavyweight guest commentator. He will complete the live broadcast with us on TV and online. He's the famous martial arts commentator, He Xiaowei. He Xiaowei was chubby like the Maitreya Buddha. He had a thick beard on his chin, but he didn't look fierce. Instead, he revealed a bit of cuteness. Hello everyone watching the live broadcast. I'm your old friend, He Xiaowei. He first bowed, then walked to the host and sat down. Xiaowei, what do you think of today's competition? The host asked with a smile. For this preliminaries, Yimo City had mobilized enough resources and even invited a well-known commentator in the country. He Xiaowei chuckled, what can I think? This is bullying, this is bullying. I don't know if Qiu Yang can fight in the end. If he can, then there's a 200% chance of bullying. Even if he can't, with just Wei Xingtian and Dong Yi, it's like pinching a snail with 3 fingers. It's a 90% certainty. There's absolutely no way to turn the tables in this kind of competition. I don't believe that Songqing University Martial Arts Club can turn the tables. As time passed, it was almost 2:30 p.m. The referee walked up to the arena, and the audience had all entered, occupying rows of seats. There were at least 10,000 people, and it was a sea of people. Seeing the referee enter the arena, the audience at one side of the stands immediately shouted in an organized manner, Yimo. The other stands immediately responded and shouted in unison, Invincible Wei. Yimo, Invincible Wei. In the away team's locker room, Lu Cheng and the others were startled by the enthusiastic shouts and woke up from their meditation. In the home team's locker room, Dong Yi was wrapping a white bandage around his wrist while lamenting to Wei Xingtian, I'm so envious. Old Dong, as long as you work hard to advance to the dance stage, you'll also have such a day. Wei Xingtian half closed his eyes, enjoying the tsunami of cheers for him. Dong Yi shook his head and smiled bitterly, with you in front, how can it be my turn? At this point, he paused for a moment and sighed. However, sooner or later, you'll jump out of this small circle of Yimo. Wei Xingtian didn't answer. He took a deep breath and said, today, I'll be the vanguard and not give them any illusions. Did you hear that? Are you envious? Are you afraid? Gizershur looked around and said calmly. Sun Jian couldn't help but sigh, such an atmosphere can kill. It's a pity that your strength is not enough. Otherwise, you can defeat their fighters in such an atmosphere. Beat them to silence, beat them to silence, beat them to silence, beat them to silence, beat them to a pulp, beat them to silence, and beat them to a pulp. That would be cool. Gizershur laughed and said, hurry up and improve. I'm waiting for this day. These words made Lu Cheng and the others' blood boil. Just imagining such a scene made them tremble and full of desire. At this time, Gizershur looked at Lin Kei and smiled, we're a weak team. From the beginning, we have to do our best to win 1 or 2 rounds to look good. You're the main player, so you go first. You may encounter Wei Xingtian directly. When he's in his best condition, are you afraid? Lin Kei suddenly raised his head and looked straight into Gizershur's eyes. His hands unconsciously clenched, no. Chapter 129. Gizershur and Lin Kei looked at each other for a few seconds and suddenly laughed. Good. It's good that you're not afraid. A newborn calf shouldn't be afraid of a tiger. Then he looked at Lu Cheng and clenched his fist, which was rare for him. You're the second one. Lin K is the hammer to open up the situation. You're the chisel to follow closely behind. Even if it's an iron wall, you have to make a hole for me. Lu Cheng was young and vigorous. His blood boiled and he said without hesitation, "Good." Geyser nodded with satisfaction and clapped his hands. As long as you can make a hole, dampen their spirit and suppress their shouts, I'll take it as our victory today. Next time, we'll come back and break through this place fair and square. Sun Jian, you have to prepare carefully. You'll definitely have a chance to fight today. Do your best. Yes, coach. Sun Jian was a little nervous and excited. It was both scary and exciting to fight in such an atmosphere. After encouraging the morale and arranging the order, Geyser glanced at his watch and said, "There are still 10 minutes left. Don't rush out. Do a warm-up in the locker room. Stretch your muscles and get familiar with the feeling. As for the fighting style, I've already explained it in the morning training, so I won't repeat it." After practicing Thunder Roar Zen for more than a week, he gradually grasped the threshold of the skill. If he wanted to use the vibration force, he had to have an explosion process when he hit his opponent. It was just like the explosion of a bomb after it hit the enemy. Thus, it would create a shock wave that would spread from one point to the other and create a vibration. In order to achieve this, the force had to be withdrawn and compressed in advance, and it had to be maintained until hitting the enemy. It couldn't be used as an explosive force or a driving force for punches. This was a big test for the control of the body, the control of the muscles and the skin. And the training with Yen Jika gave him some insight on how to withdraw and control. He was eager to master the two. Time passed. Lu Qing pulled his sleeves, the airflow was slow, and his mind was clear. He withdrew his arms and stood straight again, exhaling a mouthful of turbid air. As soon as he finished withdrawing, Geyser coughed and said, "Okay, get ready to go out." The others quickly finished and followed Geyser out of the locker room, stepping into the tiger's den. As soon as they saw them, the tens of thousands of spectators outside cheered in unison. The sound was deafening, making people feel short of breath. Get lost. Crawl back. Geyser walked forward leisurely in the face of the shouting, which was mixed with all kinds of profanities. He clicked his tongue and said to Lu Cheng and the others, "Did you hear that? If you can beat them into silence for a while, then you won't have come here in vain." Strangely enough, despite the loud noise, his low chuckle still clearly entered the ears of every participant. Infected by his carefree attitude, Lu Cheng secretly clenched his fists. His anticipation for the next match overcame his fear. He reached out his left hand and held Yen Jika's right palm, comforting her unconsciously accelerating heartbeat with his own calmness. Yen Jika was stunned at first, then turned to look at him. Her eyes were smiling, and her dimples were faintly visible. Then she raised her head, like a proud princess, and walked forward hand in hand with him. When they arrived at the guest team seats, Li Xiaowen, who was in charge of handing the name list to the competition supervisor, had been waiting for them. She said quickly, "Qiu Yang didn't go. Tan Ming of amateur first pin replaced him. Wei Xingtian is the vanguard, and Dong Yi is the second." The slightly messy words made Lu Cheng and the others stunned. They all looked at Lin Quebec. It was really a narrow road. Lin K looked sideways at the ring and slowly pulled off the clothes draped over his martial arts suit. The referee glanced at the electronic clock, gathered the strength in his dantian, and said in a voice that suppressed the shouts of the audience, "The second round of the preliminaries of Songqing Division, Fearless Squad vs Songqing University Martial Arts Club. The first round, Wei Xingtian vs Lin K." As soon as his voice fell, the audience burst into shouts several times louder than before, "Yimo." After a short pause, they roared again, "Invincible Wei. Invincible Wei of Yimo." Lin K was still expressionless. He took off his coat and put it on the seat. Facing the shouts that filled the martial arts arena, he walked step by step to the side of the ring. He walked along the stone steps and stepped onto the ring. Under the cheers of the audience, Wei Xingtian also stood up from his seat. He was like a half-iron tower, and arrived at the ring in a few strides. When the two sides stood, the referee counted the time silently and said, "The 3-minute dialogue starts." The audience burst into curses, cursing Lin Kei's 18 generations of ancestors and female relatives. Yenjika's face turned red, and she was so angry that her breathing was uneven. Lu Cheng held her soft hand and felt the physical changes caused by her intense emotions. He gently shook her hand and said, "Don't be angry. Just take it as a group of mad dogs barking." How could he not hate them? He secretly made up his mind to silence the audience, even if it was only for a few seconds. Yenjika pursed her lips and nodded. "I know they want to disturb my cousin's state of mind. It's an arena competition, and they will do anything. But I'm still angry. I've never been scolded like this in my life." As she spoke, she pouted her mouth. "I'll try to complete the small goal," Lu Cheng said seriously. "Ah." Yenjika immediately shook her head like a rattledrum. "I'm not angry anymore. You have to maintain your state of mind. You can't be affected, understand?" "Got it, Coach Yen." Lu Cheng chuckled. Yenjika snorted and looked at him with a smile, forgetting about the background noise. After this incident, she also forgot the nervousness and fear at the beginning. On the ring, Wei Xingtian looked at Lin Kei, who was adjusting his body's state, and smiled slightly. "Your chi and blood are vigorous to the extreme. You're only one step away from Dan's stage. Unfortunately, there's still one step. I know your idea is to win 1 or 2 rounds and leave Yimo with dignity. But I won't let you do as you wish. I'll personally dispel your delusions." As he spoke, he shook his head, as if he was stretching his muscles and bones, but also as if he was showing contempt. Lin Kei listened quietly and suddenly opened his mouth. "The more you talk, the more you show the fear in your heart." "I'm afraid? Why would I be afraid of you, a professional 9th pin guy? Tell me, why?" "Why?" Wei Xingtian felt funny and angry at the same time and snorted disdainfully. However, Lin Kei didn't respond anymore. He was like a Buddha carved out of stone. No matter how he was provoked, he didn't have any emotional fluctuations. After 2 minutes of ridicule, Wei Xingtian suddenly stopped because he found himself a little impatient. The other party had clearly only said one sentence, and it had actually caused him to become impatient. He had a good grasp of people's hearts. Retracting his state of mind and adjusting his breathing, Wei Xingtian regained his state of mind. At this moment, the referee raised his right hand and shouted, "Begin." Wei Xingtian's eyes flashed. His back arched like a bow and suddenly bounced. His whole body's muscles expanded as if he was taller. He shot towards Lin Kei with his right hand raised and clenched into a fist. It was as if he was holding a giant hammer and was about to swing it down fiercely. In the face of Wei Xingtian, who was rushing towards him like a giant spirit statue, Lin Kei didn't block and suddenly retreated. Normally, a normal martial artist wouldn't dodge like this because they couldn't see the road behind them and couldn't maintain their center of gravity. It was equivalent to putting themselves in a very disadvantageous position. But Lin Kei was like a dexterous mountain goat. His footwork was light, his rhythm was orderly, and his body was stable. More importantly, his retreat was to advance. Taking 3 steps back, Lin Kei forced Wei Xingtian to take 3 steps back. When his momentum started to decline, Lin Kei suddenly stopped, as if he was nailed to the ground. He exerted force on his feet, twisted his waist, and punched out a mountain blast punch with his right hand. Wei Xingtian estimated his strength. His right fist that was in the shape of a giant hammer still smashed down fiercely. Mountain blast punch. Bang! When the two collided, Lin Kei's spine suddenly squirmed like a dragon turning over. His right arm was like a spring, taking advantage of the momentum to pull back. When one side of the lever was pressed, the other side would be raised. His temples swelled, his back twisted, his left hand formed a fist and hit out as fast as a meteor. It was too late to dodge. Wei Xingtian lowered his shoulders and crossed his left arm to block the punch. Bang! Wei Xingtian felt like he was hit by a bomb. He felt that every joint, every inch of skin, and every muscle in his body was in shock. He couldn't exert strength for a short time. Yin-yang twist, meteor force. Lin Ke was afraid that he couldn't shake Wei Xingtian with his own strength, so he deliberately took the risk of using yin-yang twist to borrow part of his opponent's strength. Wei Xingtian had seen Lin Ke's previous competition video. But because he killed an amateur first pin in seconds last time, he couldn't see anything and fell for it. Seeing that he was stiff, Lin Ke took advantage of the situation. His thighs tightened, and with a snap, he pulled out his right leg and hit between Wei Xingtian's legs. Seeing this, the cursing in the arena became more intense. At the critical moment, Wei Xingtian's body suddenly shrank. His spirit, qi, blood, momentum, and strength seemed to condense into a big Dan, round and flawless, and stop the shock. After a moment, his strength broke out, gushing from a point in his body. Driving his right leg, he kicked out and blocked Lin Ke's whip kick. Bang! When the two legs collided, Lin Ke immediately felt a majestic force. He could no longer maintain his center of gravity, and following the force, he stumbled to the side and back. Under such an explosion, Wei Xingtian didn't break the ground and burst open his martial arts shoes. It was enough to show that his control of his body had reached a terrifying level. After a successful move, he showed no mercy. He stepped on the ground and jumped out. In the blink of an eye, he was in front of Lin Quebec. His muscles bulged, and his whole body was like a giant hammer, to give his opponent a fierce crash. Close punch. Lin Ke had just stabilized his center of gravity when he was faced with such a blow. He was really in danger, and it seemed that he couldn't avoid it. Yan Jika couldn't help but hold her breath. At this moment, in Lin Ke's mind, he visualized a meteor cutting through the sky and hitting the ground. His body muscles tightened, and the force exploded in his body, pushing him 2 steps sideways. Wei Xingtian hit nothing, and could only explode the airflow. Meteor force can be used not only in attack. After narrowly avoiding Wei Xingtian's close punch, Lin Ke didn't turn around. He put his feet together, straightened his right arm, and whipped to the side, hitting the back of Wei Xingtian's head. Snap! Under such a strong whip, not to mention stone force, even real stones would be smashed. The audience unconsciously clenched their fists. Chapter 130. Lin Ke moved sideways and Wei Xingtian missed. Both of them were on the same horizontal line, but one was facing south while the other was facing north. They could only see each other from the corner of their eyes. Lin Ke's right arm's single whip was natural and casual, as if it was at his fingertips. It had the charm of softness and toughness. It hit the back of Wei Xingtian's head without any mistake. The audience watching Yimo subconsciously clenched their fists and showed concern. Although they were full of confidence in Wei Wuди and continued to shout, in the face of such an attack, the human body instinctively had the corresponding feeling. Although they didn't say it, their hearts were very honest. Wei Xingtian, who was stuck in the air, seemed to have eyes at the back of his head. He had an absolute reaction and took a deep breath. His skin that was a little dark blue suddenly swelled and then contracted. Then, he wriggled his spine and instantly overcame the inertia. He strode forward and flashed out of the attack range. Dong! He had just avoided the whip and immediately stepped with his right foot, which seemed to shake the ring. He turned around, twisted his waist and kicked out. Unlike the normal whip kick, Wei Xingtian used his left leg as a giant hammer. He was holding it, swinging his arm and sweeping away thousands of troops. It was fierce and overbearing, almost like a knife on horseback. The air burst with a series of explosions, which made Lin Ke's hair stand on end. However, he didn't choose to dodge. Instead, he lowered his waist and put on a posture. His left hand clenched into a fist and blocked the sweeping hammer. Bang! His leg hit the left arm. Lin Ke's body bounced and shook. He was about to be hit, but his left hand that was clenched into a fist suddenly loosened. His whole arm became soft and he swung it back to dissolve part of the force. He pushed his body sideways and his right hand grabbed from the bottom to the top. He wanted to break the tendons and bones of Wei Xingtian's left leg. Seeing this situation, Wei Xingtian didn't retract his left leg but met Lin Kei's right palm head-on. At the same time, his waist and back suddenly tightened, and his body leaped up like a wild horse in the air. His right foot kicked forward with explosive power. Rabbit steps on eagle. Lin Kei didn't dare to grab Wei Xingtian's left leg again. He pulled back his right arm to block the kick. As soon as the two came into contact, his arm retracted to neutralize the force. However, his retraction was not straight back, as that would hit his own chest, which was equivalent to giving up resistance. Instead, he drew a small arc, flipped up, and shook, throwing Wei Xingtian out. Good! Wei Xingtian shouted as soon as his feet touched the ground. His kick just now seemed ordinary, but it was actually a killer move. If Lin Kei had directly blocked it, he would have immediately borrowed the force and followed up with another kick with his left foot. It was fast and ruthless, and he did it 7 times in a row. Lin Kei was unable to block it. Before he entered the Danchi state, he once challenged a martial arts club. Due to the poor standard of the referee, a professional 9th pin fighter's sternum was all broken by this move. Although he was saved in time, he was still bedridden for a long time, and only 40 to 50% of his kung fu remained. Lin Kei, on the other hand, countered the attack. His ingenious use of energy made his follow-up attack disappear without a trace. As proud as Wei Xingtian was, he couldn't help but praise him. Seeing this scene, Geyser nodded gently and smiled to Lu Qing beside him. In terms of borrowing force, you have achieved great success in meditation and good control of your body muscles. You are only inferior to him in the uniqueness of yin-yang twist. But in terms of neutralizing force, you are still too rough. You have been practicing martial arts for too short a time. You don't know much, and you don't know many little tricks. It's hard for you to be like him. This is also the reason why I let him take the lead. If you meet Wei Xingtian in his best condition, you don't know how to neutralize, but only how to borrow. It'll be good if you can block 3 moves. It'll be a waste of your abnormal physical strength. Lu Qing nodded slightly, as if he was thinking. He looked at the ring more and more attentively. On the other side, Yan Zhika heard her cousin being praised by Coach Shi. She was overjoyed and proud. Taking advantage of the good shout, Wei Xingtian took a step forward. His right hand turned into a battering awl and suddenly hit out. Lin Kei's 2 legs were pressed inward. His hands were like a door, pushing and pushing, squeezing and lifting. He forcibly blocked the hammer. Wei Xingtian didn't give him any chance to adjust and recover. His left arm shook, like a spear, and went straight for Lin Kei's throat. Lin Kei tilted his head. His hands that blocked Wei Xingtian's right fist suddenly pushed forward. Taking advantage of the rebound force, he jumped back. Like a mountain goat, he took a few steps back and rearranged his stance. Wei Xingtian exerted strength in his waist and abdomen and took a big step forward to catch up again. Bang bang bang. Bang bang bang. The two kept fighting and separating. Every time Lin Kei couldn't hold on after blocking 1 or 2 hammers, he used the force to dodge. Within 2 or 3 minutes, he took Wei Xingtian to almost every corner of the ring. Geyser looked and laughed. You have some ideas. What ideas? Not only Lu Qing and Yan Zhika looked at him curiously, but Sun Jian and Li Mao also looked at him in confusion. Geyser chuckled and said, Lin Kei is at a disadvantage but he doesn't panic. Instead, he is taking this opportunity to temper himself. If you want to advance to the Dan stage from the peak of the body refining stage, first, you have to train your own cultivation to the bone, to the inside of the body, and to the smallest detail. This is something that others can't help you with. Second, you have to master the charm of withdraw, and integrate the strength of your whole body into one. Lin Kei knows how to withdraw, but but there is still some distance to truly withdraw. He is using Wei Xingtian's hammers to condense the pure strength of his own body. Under the pressure of external forces, he is forced to withdraw. This is like forging iron. Keep hammering to force out the impurities and refine it into steel. Lu Qing was surprised and happy. So, big, Lin Ke may have a breakthrough and become a big Dan? Impossible. Shi bluntly denied his guess. Even if he has mastered withdraw, without a certain time of polishing and understanding, without repeated attempts, there is no way to integrate the strength of his whole body into one and step into the Dan stage. Breaking through is a process, not a node. It can't be done just on the spot. Speaking of this, he snorted, and Wei Xingtian is not blind. After repeated collisions, how can he not hear the change in the opponent's strength? Can't see what Lin Ke really wants to do? If I were him, I would immediately break out and try to interrupt Lin Ke to try to end the battle. Master, which side are you on? Lu Qing silently complained. Just as he finished complaining, the situation on the arena developed in the direction Shi said. When Wei Xingtian approached Lin Ke again, his essence, qi, spirit, will and the strength of his whole body suddenly contracted, as if condensed to a point, making his body look empty and lose the feeling of a living person. Immediately after, the point suddenly burst out and the strength gushed out, making Wei Xingtian's spine like a bow, instantly recovered from the pull to the limit. Together with the hammer Jin, in his mind, it drove the strength of his feet downward. Suddenly, Wei Xingtian seemed to be shorter by 1 or 2 centimeters. His muscles swelled, his dark blue skin bulged, and his right hand turned into a giant hammer. With the mighty strength of that point and almost all the strength of his body, he hit Lin Ke at a very fast speed, blocking most of the angles, making it difficult for him to activate the compressed, meteor force, in time to dodge. Giant spirit hammer. Lin Ke's eyes narrowed dangerously. The avalanche in his mind rolled and poured into his feet, crashing to the ground. The violent force rebounded, passing through his feet, legs and waist, bouncing through his spine and pouring into his left arm. With a bang, he met the hammer with a soaring cannon punch. Bang! When the two collided, Lin Ke's body trembled as if he had turned into a wooden man. He mechanically retracted his left fist, both transforming and borrowing, guiding the terrifying strength into his own body, mixing it with the essence, qi, spirit and will that had been constantly refined and compressed, condensing into a ball. With a pull of the wooden man, the right half of Lin Ke's body was pushed forward. All the strength suddenly burst out, driving his right fist to burst out. Yin-yang twist, meteor burst. Wei Xingtian was not surprised or afraid, as if he had expected it. The strength of his right hand strangely retracted, as if his whole body was one. His left arm was already swinging and hitting hard. Mad demon hammer. Bang! A dull and violent sound broke out. Lin Ke and Wei Xingtian maintained the posture of crossing their fists, temporarily pausing. With 2 cracking sounds, Lin Ke's martial arts shoes were torn apart, leaving only the soles of his feet. Wei Xingtian gasped for breath and laughed, "If you can make one more hit, I will most likely lose." Lin Ke lowered his head, sweat constantly dripping from his black hair. His eyes looked straight at his feet, neither replying nor moving his body. After Wei Xingtian took the punch head-on, it was as if he had suffered a terrifying explosion. His qi and blood were tumbling, his internal organs were shaking, and his bones and joints were trembling. He was so uncomfortable that he felt dizzy. Not to mention fighting again, he even had the impulse to spit out blood. But he knew that Lin Ke's state was worse. How could his full-strength, giant spirit hammer be so easy to transform and borrow strength? And in the final collision, the outbreak of Mad Demon Hammer was equally terrifying. The fact that Lin Ke could still stand straight and not fall surprised him. The referee observed for more than 10 seconds and raised his right hand. The first round, Wei Xingtian wins. As soon as the result was announced, the surrounding stands suddenly boiled up, shouting crazily, "Fearless!" The other side responded enthusiastically, "We will win. Fearless squad will win." The referee waved to the competition supervisor, pointed at Lin Ke and said, "He is a little injured, help him down." Immediately after, he looked at Songqing University Martial Arts Club and shouted, "The second contestant, Lu Cheng." In the TV broadcast room, guest commentator He Xiaowei slapped the table and laughed. "Like I said, how can a Danchi state fighter lose against a professional ninth pin? You tell me how to lose?" A few gamblers were watching the live TV broadcast and were considering whether to bet on the final result. "Big brother, this commentator is a famous poison healer with a crow's mouth. Should we bet on him instead?" A young man was worried. His big brother patted his head and said, "Are you stupid? We have to analyze the strength of both sides and the odds when we bet. How can we rely on luck to make a living? Even if he has a crow's mouth, he can't do everything in reverse, right? We have to believe in our own eyes." Yes, 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 Big Brother is right. The other gamblers were convinced. In Lu Cheng's private forum, there was a post called Qualifier Second Round Live Broadcast. At this time, there were a few new replies. "Eternal Nightfall," Yan Shaoling said, "Lu Cheng is going to fight. He is going to fight. But I am so worried, that Danchi state fighter is so fierce." Brahman also said pitifully, "Lu Cheng, please don't get hurt. Losing to a Dan state fighter is not shameful." Unparalleled Dragon King also replied, "Reality is reality, you won't always meet a stronger opponent or a weaker one." Seeing Lin Ke being helped down, Lu Cheng held Yenjika's hand, took off his coat and stood up. Yenjika wanted to tell him to be careful, but she was afraid that her nervousness and worry would affect his performance. In the end, she turned all her words into a gesture of encouragement and a joking sentence, "Cheng, I have faith in you." The familiar tone made Lu Cheng smile. Courage poured out bit by bit, slowly flowing, urging him to step forward and walk along the road to the arena. On the ring, Wei Xingtian took 2 steps forward, but the tattered martial arts shoes on his feet were left in place. Because they were embedded in the bluestone ground, the surroundings were full of spiderweb-like cracks. This was the reason why he suddenly became 1 or 2 centimeters shorter just now. Wei Xingtian's body was still shaking, and his face was ugly. He raised his chin and looked down at Lu Cheng, who was walking to the arena. Lu Cheng was not afraid, and calmly looked back at him. For eyes met, as if there were sparks in the air. At this time, Wei Xingtian smiled at Lu Cheng and raised his right arm. In the stands, the audience immediately responded with a tsunami of cheers, and the enthusiasm was so surging that the roof was almost lifted off. Yimo. Invincible Wei. Invincible Wei. Chapter 131. Yimo. Invincible Wei. The duet shouts rose and fell one after another, setting off a terrifying storm in the enclosed stadium. They overlapped with the echoes, vibrating Lu Cheng's eardrums and turning into substance, becoming a part of Wei Xingtian's momentum, making him look invincible. In the face of such a deliberate demonstration and provocation, it would be a lie to say that Lu Cheng's state of mind did not change. He was not yet 20 years old and full of vigor. He had not experienced many big scenes, and had only experienced a life and death battle once. He could not be compared to Geyser, who was used to seeing all kinds of things. He could not be as calm as still water and not be surprised. He was a little trembling, a little nervous, and some inexplicable anger. All kinds of emotions mixed together with the abuse that affected Yan Jika just now, fermenting into a strong fighting spirit. Taking a breath, he concealed his spirit and chi and visualized the scene of condensing water into ice. With a calm and composed mind, he commanded the others, pushing his momentum up step by step. When he stepped on the ring, he had automatically filtered out the echoes in the stadium, showing no signs of weakness under Wei Xingtian's pressure. Songqing University, Building 7, Unit 2, Dormitory 302. Kai Zhongming put his laptop on the coffee table, gathered Zhao Chang, Qin Mo, and the others, and sat around the living room, watching the live broadcast of Yimo TV station through the internet. After seeing Lu Cheng's straight figure, neither servile nor overbearing, he couldn't help but sigh. Why do I feel that Cheng is more charming than me? Zhao Chang and the others did not answer his slightly narcissistic sigh and stared nervously at the screen. Even though they were hundreds of kilometers away, separated by network signals and radio waves, they could still feel the crazy atmosphere and the horror of the professional 8th pin Dan stage. Subconsciously, they were worried for Lu Cheng. Don't get hurt, don't lose too badly. In the live broadcast room, as a professional commentator, He Xiaowei seized the short gap and quickly made the final introduction. As we have said before the competition, Lu Cheng from Songqing University Martial Arts Club has not been practicing martial arts for a long time, so his physical fitness is still lacking. Relying on his strength exertion techniques, mercurial balance, and silent listening skills, he has improved his overall strength to the level of a real professional 9th pin fighter. In short, he is invincible in one move. Now, in the face of a real Dan stage expert, his strength exerting skills and his mercurial balance are not as good as his opponents. All his advantages will be offset and all his weaknesses will be exposed. Therefore, even if Wei Xingtian consumed a lot of energy in the previous battle, even if he still has the effect of the last fierce collision, isn't it a sure thing to beat Lu Cheng? I don't believe that he can fail at such a simple task. Tell me how to do it. Alright, let's cut the crap. The second round is about to begin. Let's wait and see. In order to not give Wei Xingtian enough time to recover and to not waste the opportunity created by Lin Ke at the risk of injury, Lu Cheng's speed towards the arena was not slow. After a few strides, he was already facing his opponent across the referee. Without wasting time, without waiting, without stopping, the referee raised his right hand and swung it down. Begin. Of course, Wei Xingtian would not fight a protracted battle with Lu Cheng. While waiting for his opponent to enter the arena, he was adjusting. Enduring the discomfort of his internal organs, bones, and muscles, he turned his spine into a bowstring, pulled and then bounced. Following that, he exerted strength under his feet and crushed 2 black bricks. Using himself as a sharp arrow, he shot out. His speed was beyond Lu Cheng's expectation. He only felt that his opponent was in front of him in the blink of an eye. There was no time to adjust his center of gravity to dodge. Only by experiencing it in person could one truly understand the horror of the Dan stage. This was not something that could be accurately grasped just by watching the battle videos and other people's matches. Lu Cheng now suffered a severe loss. As soon as he approached, Wei Xingtian clenched his hands into fists, half retracted his right shoulder and elbow, and hammered down at a short distance. This was completely different from the hammering technique he just displayed. If he was fighting with a long-handled giant hammer before, now he was holding 2 hammers in his hands. Learning from Li Yuanba, he hammered one after another, not caring about the distance, not caring about the moves, only fierceness and speed. As the saying goes, random fists can kill a master. Gigantic spirit hammering technique, double random hammering. Lu Cheng kept calm and took a short breath. In his mind, lightning struck down and hit the dead wood, bringing a prairie fire. The heat flowed down from his tailbone and poured into his legs. He pushed his left foot inward, twisted his waist and put up a fist. Pa, a mountain blast was launched. Bang! The hammer and cannon collided. A majestic force hit, making it difficult for Lu Cheng to stabilize his body. There was a clear gap between the strength of the 2 sides. Wei Xingtian had indeed experienced a fierce battle and was still affected. But Lu Cheng was also in a hurry to respond and only had time to use the lightning and fire stance. Fortunately, Lu Cheng was prepared. As soon as they came into contact, his right foot took a step back and removed part of the force. He guided the remaining force into the soles of his feet. Pa, he stepped on a black brick and let his center of gravity stabilize behind. This was a move of Tai Chi, which was widely used. Lu Cheng first imitated it from Yi Yaoting, and just now he learned it from watching Lin Ke's elimination and attack. At this time, he used it and finally blocked this hammer. But how could Wei Xingtian's double hammer be so simple? As soon as the right hammer stopped, the left hammer rose up. It looked like he was going to beat his opponent with a series of random hammers. Facing this, Lu Cheng seemed to only have 2 choices. One was to use the rebound force of his right foot to jump back, just like Lin K just now. He retreated nimbly with his back and resumed his stance. But this battle was different from the previous one. The situation was different. The distance between the two sides was very close. It was enough for Wei Xingtian to use the short hammer to attack fiercely. If Lu Qing jumped back, his speed might not be able to catch up with the momentum of Wei Xingtian's left hammer. There was a certain possibility that he would be hit, which was quite risky. And the second choice was to parry again, and then retreat again. Maintain the current situation and wait for Wei Xingtian to finish his momentum. But Lu Qing knew that there was a gap in strength between him and his opponent. He wasn't as delicate as Lin Quebec. If he just defended, he might not be able to hold on until his opponent took a breath. This was really dangerous on both sides. When fighting with a master, once you fall into a disadvantageous position, it would be extremely difficult to get rid of it again. Lu Cheng's heart was as calm as water, as if he was facing a life and death battle. When Wei Xingtian's left hammer was about to hit, he suddenly moved. He used the rebound force of his right foot to straighten his back and lean to the left. He didn't jump back, but instead moved forward. He lowered his shoulder and slammed into Wei Xingtian's chest. No dodging, no parrying, just once. In his mind, the snow mountain collapsed. His body merged with the white stream and rolled toward Wei Xingtian. And because of the forward movement of his body and the left side of his body, which was also the right side of his opponent, he narrowly avoided the left hammer that was smashing down. Only the strong wind hit his face and made him feel pain. And the distance between the two sides was close enough. Lu Qing just got up and was about to hit Wei Xingtian's chest. In a situation full of danger and disadvantage, he actually relied on his fearless courage, the tragedy of a life and death battle, and his calm and accurate judgment to face the difficulties and seize the only opportunity to turn defeat into victory. Because of the strength of Wei Xingtian's hammer, his collision was powerful and violent, as if it could even smash a real stone. The sudden reversal of victory and defeat made the entire audience unable to react in time. They were still cheering loudly as usual, shouting and cursing. At this critical moment, Wei Xingtian didn't panic. He suddenly sat down and the violent momentum and power of the two hammers suddenly retracted to a certain point in his body. The momentum was so fast that it seemed to pull his spirit, willpower, and blood flow to that point. His whole body suddenly lost the feeling of a living person. Lu Qing felt like he had bumped into a phantom the moment he collided with it. He felt a sense of emptiness and softness. After a moment, that point in Wei Xingtian's body exploded. His strength, momentum, and spirit gushed out in an instant, bulging his muscles, propping up his fascia, and turning his blackish skin into a hard stone. Bang! Lu Qing, who had a part of his strength reduced by the initial emptiness, didn't break the bluestone. He only made Wei Xingtian's upper body shake a little. His torso quickly swung back. His arms wrapped around Lu Qing, trying to hold him in his arms. The embrace of the giant bear. Such a hug and squeeze would definitely break the bones of ordinary people and strangle them to death. Even if it was a martial artist, it would be difficult to bear. But at this moment, Lu Qing seemed to have anticipated it. Taking advantage of the rebound from the collision, he shot backward like a bolt of lightning. This was unexpectedly not slower than the forward pounce. Not only did he narrowly avoid the hug, but he also pulled apart the distance between him and Wei Xingtian. After a few nimble steps, he rearranged his stance. He just took the risk to move forward and slammed sideways, all for the sake of retreating now. It was the opposite of Lin K's, retreating in order to advance. Lu Qing clearly knew that a Dan stage master couldn't be defeated in a few moves. He must restrain his restlessness and not blindly seek to finish the battle in one fell swoop. Wei Xingtian took a breath, strode forward and attacked again. In his heart, his evaluation of Lu Qing was raised a little. An opponent who only knew how to be ruthless wasn't scary. What was scary was not only ruthless, but also not reckless at all. In the seats of the Songqing University Martial Arts Club, Yan Zhika had long pursed her lips. She was nervous and worried about the changes just now. She didn't expect Lu Qing to fall into such a passive situation at the beginning. She also didn't expect him to attack instead of retreating. Her palms were sweating because of this. When Lu Qing jumped back with the help of the collision, pulled away and recovered the balance, she heaved a long sigh of relief. Her eyes were shining for her boyfriend's judgment, courage, determination and clear-headedness in such a short time. Geezer watched quietly. Suddenly, he clicked his tongue and said, "Not bad." After a short treatment, Lin Ke had recovered his ability to move. But his face was as white as paper, and his left arm was hanging weakly. His eyes were fixed on the field and didn't move for a moment. His right fist unconsciously clenched. In the live broadcast room, He Xiaowei finished this part with some lingering fear. He breathed a sigh of relief and laughed. Contestant Lu Qing from Songqing University is very reckless. If it wasn't for his good luck, Wei Xingtian would have finished the battle by now. Hey, at that distance, even if the referee is powerful, he may not be able to save him. He's bound to break a few bones. But his luck is really good. His reckless attack actually exchanged for an opportunity. Unfortunately, strength is the final deciding factor. He didn't win even like this. It's conceivable that he can't win at all. You guys tell me how to win? When all the audience just recovered from the shock, Wei Xingtian once again closed the distance between him and Lu Qing. He opened his right arm, like a sledgehammer, and smashed hard on the opponent's posture. Lu Qing saw a faint smile on Wei Xingtian's face. His spirit, spirit, and strength were all gathered into a human body Big Dan, condensing everything together. Wei Xingtian's muscles swelled, turning his martial arts suit into a tight suit. His dark skin tightened like the surface of a stone. His whole person seemed to have turned into a tall and mighty giant statue. Visible cracks appeared on the bricks under his feet. He clenched his right fist and punched out fiercely. The condensed power and momentum found the only way to vent, pushing it forward crazily and exploding the air along the way. Lu Qing narrowed his eyes and realized that he had been deceived by Wei Xingtian. As a master of the Dan stage, he had to play tricks to deal with him. He deliberately pretended that he had consumed a certain amount of energy and his body was in a condition. Although it was despicable, he had to admit that he had a good grasp of his own mentality and knew that he was waiting for this opportunity. In a martial arts fight, there was no despicable, only victory and defeat. The winner was righteous. Since he had already launched his attack, it was impossible for him to stop it at the last minute. That would be even more terrifying. For example, in a situation where leg was leg to leg, if they were to clash head-on, they would at most suffer some bruises and swelling. However, if one of them was not determined enough and decided to withdraw, they would often end up with broken bones. Bang! The two didn't change their moves and collided together. Lu Qing only felt the pain in his fist and the sound of his bones. He didn't dare to resist for fear of breaking his arm. He could only choose to be swept away by the majestic force and thrown to a place not far away. Dong! Just as he fell to the ground, Wei Xingtian had already rushed over, not giving him any chance to adjust and recover. Seeing this, Yan Jika's clenched fists loosened. Everyone in the Songqing University Martial Arts Club sighed together. The result was about to be revealed. Lu Qing failed and Wei Xingtian won. Two strong professional 9th pin fighters couldn't defeat an 8th pin fighter who had just entered the Dan stage by taking turns. The whole audience immediately burst into cheers, full of cathartic cheers. The shadow shrouded his body. Lu Qing knew that he was about to lose, but he didn't have any thoughts of giving up struggling and admitting defeat. Just like in a life and death battle, who would give up without a fight? He wouldn't cry until he saw the king of hell. He adjusted his muscles and quickly rolled back, but how could the rolling speed of his body compare to Wei Xingtian's striding attack? He was about to be caught up and was about to be kicked by a leg. At this moment, Lu Qing's body seemed to be hit by something. In an instant, his mind flashed. He grabbed the ground with his left hand and waved it at Wei Xingtian. A handful of gravel shot out and went straight to the opponent's face. He didn't have time to grab the ground, but this was the last place where Lin Ke and Wei Xingtian collided fiercely. The ground was already broken and cracked. Sometimes, life really needed a little luck. And this was also the result left by Lin Ke. Flying stones hit his face and sand confused his eyes. Wei Xingtian seemed to have returned to the days when he fought with gangsters. But he didn't dare to not dodge or block, because the eyes were not a place that could be trained by the bright stone skill. With Lu Cheng's strength, those flying stones were enough to penetrate his eyelids and blind him. Was it worth it for a preliminaries? Wei Xingtian's body instinctively paused. He quickly raised his left hand and blocked in front of his face to block the flying stones. Taking this opportunity, Lu Cheng curled his body and moved forward instead of retreating. He didn't rush to stand up, but skillfully pressed left and right to hit between the opponent's legs. Wei Xingtian was experienced and prepared. His body sank and his right hand quickly pressed down like a falling hammer. Bang! Just after the collision, Lu Cheng used the force to straighten his waist and bounced up. Wei Xingtian smiled coldly. His left arm was already hanging down and he hit out a crushing punch. I'm waiting for you to try to stand up straight. However, Lu Cheng didn't stand up. He directly rose into the air and stretched his body horizontally. He narrowly avoided the crushing punch that hit his lower abdomen. Then he spread his wings like a white crane and clapped his hands to hit Wei Xingtian's temples. Wei Xingtian took a breath and withdrew his strength. His arms quickly pulled back and held next to his head. The two palms hit each other. Before the muffled sound, Lu Cheng changed from hitting to pressing. He used the force to turn over Wei Xingtian's head and landed behind him. Just after landing on the ground, Lu Cheng bounced his waist and back and took a few big steps forward. He once again avoided Wei Xingtian's back kick. Then he exerted force under his feet and turned his body, bringing the situation back to balance again. This change was completely out of the expectation of most of the people present. They watched in a daze. They were still shouting, but their voices were gradually weakening. Yan Zhika raised her hands and covered her face. She was surprised and happy. She couldn't believe it. Geyser coughed twice and said, "This little bastard has a bit of fighting wit." His words awakened all the members of the Songqing University Martial Arts Club, and they all shouted in unison, "Hey! Good!" At the same time, the audience also woke up. They were angry and resentful. They broke out a tsunami-like abuse for Lu Cheng's shameless flying sand blinding eyes and monkey steals peach, idiot. F***CKU. Fight fair and square if you dare. In his mind, he immediately visualized the picture and sound of thunderclouds everywhere and thunder shaking. Boom! There seemed to be a burst of thunder in Lu Cheng's body. His right fist suddenly hit out. When it came into contact with Wei Xingtian's hammer, the tightened muscles and fascias all exploded together, like igniting gunpowder. Thunder Roar Zen. Passive Thunder Roar Zen. Dang! Wei Xingtian suddenly felt as if he was an ancient bell that had been struck hard. There was a wave on the surface of his body, and a buzzing force entered his body, causing his bone marrow, blood, muscles, and fascia to vibrate, causing his already uncomfortable internal organs to churn again. He almost spat out a mouthful of old blood. His body was stiff there, and the audience was still shouting, "Invincible Wei." Successful in one move, it triggered the remaining influence in the enemy's body. Lu Cheng immediately stepped forward, leaned sideways and crazily hit like an avalanche. Bang! This time, Wei Xingtian couldn't retract his strength to deal with it. He could only barely hold up his arms to block, but Lu Cheng knocked him away. Deep in Lu Cheng's eyes, water condensed into ice. There was no emotional fluctuation. He slightly bounced back and hit forward again. Dong! He seemed to hit a stone, and Wei Xingtian staggered back. Lu Cheng stepped forward, grabbed the enemy's left arm, pulled it back, and hit him sideways again. He didn't use his full strength, but used his skillful strength. Suddenly, Wei Xingtian flew out to the edge of the ring not far away. Yimo. Wei Wu. The audience watched Wei Xingtian fall inch by inch, like watching a slow-motion movie. The voices gradually stopped. Thump. Wei Xingtian landed on the ground, and the audience was silent. The referee stopped his blocking posture, raised his right hand, and announced loudly, "The second round, Lu Qing wins." Hearing this sentence, Lu Qing gasped, and all kinds of emotions in his heart burst out. He turned back to look at the Songqing University Martial Arts Club, looked straight at Yan Zhika, clenched his fists, and swung them up. He won. He really won. Yan Zhika jumped up from her seat, and also cheered with clenched fists. After venting the tension and pressure of the battle, Lu Qing recalled what happened just now. He suddenly raised his index finger, put it in front of his mouth, and proudly and slowly looked around the audience. "Shut up. All of you shut up." Chapter 133. Facing Lu Cheng's shut-up gesture, the spectators in Yimo Martial Arts Stadium seemed to have their acupoints pressed and their mouths stuffed. They turned into clay puppets one after another. The whole stadium was silent for a while, presenting an extreme and strange silence. The invincible Wei Xingtian of Yimo actually lost. Although he lost to the powerful ninth pin in a tag team battle, since he was known as the invincible local, how could he not defeat two professional ninth pin fighters? After a short silence, they came back to their senses and realized that they were provoked and slapped in the face. Suddenly, they burst into a roar louder than the previous one. All kinds of classic Chinese curses were madly spewed out, such as F***K, F***K, idiot, and so on. Lu Qing put down his finger. He was very satisfied with the extreme silence of tens of thousands of people who dared to respond to him. He was also satisfied with the various curses he encountered now. The more they cursed, the more they exposed their lack of confidence, and the more it set off the silence just now. Just like a famous saying, the enemy's abuse and slander showed that you were successful enough. No wonder Master said that it was a very satisfying thing to fight until the whole stadium was silent and all the spectators were sullen and speechless. It was simply too satisfying. At the Songqing University Martial Arts Club seats, Li Mao, Sun Jian, Lin Hua, and Guo Qing were stunned at first. When the referee officially announced, they suddenly stood up, raised their hands, ignored the spectators, and cheered loudly. They didn't have their usual appearance and showed a bit of madness. They had been suppressed for too long and too ruthlessly. The battle just now, not to mention Lu Qing on the field, even the spectators felt that it was extremely torturous. Lu Qing was pushed into the abyss of despair several times, but he struggled to climb out again and again. Finally, he persisted until he saw the opportunity and saw the dawn of hope. He ruthlessly overturned the invincible demon king who seemed to be invincible. When the breath in their hearts was vented, it was very satisfying. It was simply like eating a ginseng fruit. All the pores on their body opened up, not a single one of them was uncomfortable. The more difficult the battle, the more the joy and excitement of the victory reward surged. When Coach Shi encouraged them in the locker room, although they were also hot-blooded and full of fighting spirit, in their hearts, they still didn't have much hope of breaking through the iron wall of the fearless squad, even if they had two strong professional ninth pin fighters on their side. After all, they were professional eighth pin fighters. However, Lu Qing and Lin Ke really created a miracle. The amount of self-denial he had before was equal to the amount of surprise he had now. Yan Zhika clenched her fists and cheered. She shouted out all the emotions in her heart, such as nervousness, uneasiness, expectation, surprise, and excitement, as if she had won the match herself. Her cheeks were flushed with excitement, and her eyes were shining brightly. Her whole person was extremely bright and attractive. When she saw Lu Qing gesturing for the audience to shut up, she suddenly restrained her ecstasy. Her eyes were like water, clear and gentle. Her mouth was smiling, and her dimples were shallow. She felt strangely peaceful, as if she and Lu Qing were the only ones left in the world. At this time, she vaguely heard Coach Shi murmur something in a low voice, as if he was saying, "You really won. I just wanted to give you some motivation. Wasn't it a small goal?" Yen Jika thought silently. Lin K, who had been staring at the ring, pursed his lips and slowly loosened his clenched right fist. In the live broadcast room, the commentator He Xiaowei and the host of the TV station looked at each other speechlessly. They could see the awkwardness on each other's faces. Every word they had said before seemed to have turned into slaps that were ruthlessly slapped back. After a short silence, He Xiaowei's expression became serious, and he said as if nothing had happened, taking advantage of this time, "I will analyze what happened just now for everyone." Through the replay, we can clearly see that Wei Xingtian was beaten until he was stiff. His body seemed to be vibrating. We have reason to believe that contestant Lu Qing used the tremor force, which was like a bomb exploding. The impact it brought shook the body from the outside to the inside, tumbled the blood and qi, and affected the 5 viscera. Of course, with the physical quality of a professional 8th pin in the dance stage, the tremor force shouldn't have caused such a big impact. But I have noticed one thing. Director, please replay these few scenes of the match between Wei Xingtian and Lin K. Everyone saw it. Contestant Wei Xingtian was also stiff, but he forcibly resolved it by relying on the ability of the dance stage. In the final fierce collision between him and Lin K, he must have suffered internal injuries. His 5 viscera and 6 bowels were unstable, so he quickly became weaker and weaker. In the end, he was affected by Lu Cheng's tremor force, which triggered the previous internal injuries. It was difficult for him to recover quickly, and he was on the verge of failure. Lu Qing fought very fiercely in this match, but he was also very calm. He seized almost every opportunity he could, from getting rid of the disadvantage to seizing the victory. Of course, he was also lucky enough to fall to the place where the rubble was left behind by the previous battle. As for the question of civilization, I will only say one thing. Martial arts itself is the most uncivilized thing. Every move and every style is created to kill or cripple the opponent, not to stop. In addition, if such a martial artist doesn't even know how to make use of the environment, he might as well go home and nurse his child. In short, this is a victory worthy of congratulations. There is a little luck factor, but more because of strength. The TV host was stunned. He looked at He Xiaowei as if he was looking at a monster. His eyes seemed to be roaring and questioning, "That's not what you said just now. How can you slap your own face?" He Xiaowei calmly looked back at him and secretly scolded, "You're so stupid. Do you think a nationally famous commentator can be found casually? This is an impetuous society. If you want to be famous, you have to be extreme. You have to shock people to death with your words. How many people scold and ridicule you is how famous you are, and fame is equal to money. It's not that I can't see some things, but I have to say the opposite. Anyone can explain it by following the rules. How can you stand out? Isn't there a song that is very good? Exaggerated. As for face? Is face more important than money? Give me a few million, and I'll scold myself to death in minutes. You don't even know how to dry your own face, how can you be a commentator? And this is why you're only a local TV host, and I'm nationally famous." While his inner thoughts were playing out in his mind, his mouth still didn't stop talking. Now Fearless Squad is in a bit of danger. Contestant Lu Qing seemed to be an arrow at the end of its flight after such an intense battle. However, if contestant Dong Yi from Fearless Squad really thinks that way, then they're finished. According to the data, Lu Qing has abnormal stamina. He might even be gifted in stamina. In Lu Cheng's private forum, the live broadcast posts were exploding. Yan Shaoling and Brahman kept posting, venting their inner excitement, and joy. As for the content, many of them were meaningless toned phrases and all kinds of praises. They couldn't wait to use all the compliments they had learned. In particular, they felt that Lu Cheng's gesture to the audience to shut up was so cool that it was exploding. After a while, Yan Shaoling suddenly realized something. Wait a minute, I remember someone just posted that if Lu Qing wins, she will send seeds. Someone also said that if Lu Qing wins, she will run around naked to celebrate. Unparalleled Dragon King had been waiting for a long time and immediately replied, after reminiscing about the twists and turns of the match, "I'm waiting to run around naked." "Live broadcast please." Nye Chi-Chi also said happily. There was nothing more delightful than seeing Lu Qing defeat a powerful enemy and having something to cheer about. Many IDs that usually lurked appeared, saying that they were waiting to run around naked. After a short while, Okamoto's fan said, "I'm the one who wants to send seeds. After the match ends, I'll drive." Beep, student card. Yan Shaoling added, "I found the one who said that he wants to run around naked. Come out." At all the good names are eaten by dogs. All the good names are eaten by dogs appeared weakly. I'm going to the bathroom to run around naked. There's no live broadcast. TSK. Everyone replied in unison. In Lu Cheng's dormitory, Kai Zongming and others couldn't help but cheer loudly and celebrate heartily. The opponent's strength was fully demonstrated through 2 consecutive matches, which really established the image of an unbeatable opponent. However, Cheng still defeated him. Even if the process was full of difficulties and he almost lost the match, it was fine as long as the result was good. The more difficult the process, the better the taste of victory. I can't F** King recognized Cheng in the ring. Kai Zongming praised. Qin Mo clicked his tongue in agreement. Thinking about how someone who can kill me with a single slap is usually so polite to me, I feel like it's unreal. When Wei Xingtian was beaten out of the ring, the seats of Fearless Squad were silent, as if they were hallucinating. After a dozen seconds, Dong Yi threw away his jacket, stood up suddenly and walked towards the ring, leaving his confused teammates. At this time, Wei Xingtian, who majored in bright stone skill, turned over and stood up. He rubbed his chest and walked to the stone steps of the ring. He stopped Dong Yi and said in a low voice, "Don't be careless. His physical strength is abnormal. He doesn't seem to be weak." Dong Yi was stunned and looked at the ring. He didn't know why, but his heart was suddenly filled with mixed feelings. Since the establishment of Fearless Squad, most people paid attention to and talked about Wei Xingtian, who was invincible in Yimo, and Xiao Yang, who was young and full of talent. Very few people mentioned him, and in the matches he participated in, it was indeed difficult for him to play an important role. But this time, Wei Xingtian failed, Xiao Yang was injured, and the opponent's momentum was at its peak. The squad was on the verge of defeat. "I am the only one left, and I am the only one who can carry this heavy burden." He took a breath, nodded to Wei Xingtian, and walked up the stone steps. "I am also a professional 9th pin, and I am not worse than any fighter of the same level." When Wei Xingtian returned to his seat, Xiao Yang asked with concern, "Brother Wei, are you okay?" Wei Xingtian shook his head, "Some small injuries, nothing serious." "Do you think old Dong can stop Lu Cheng?" Xiao Yang asked anxiously. Wei Xingtian looked at the ring, paused for a moment, and finally spat out 3 words, "I don't know." Seeing Dong Yi enter the ring, Yan Zhika sat down again, looking forward to Lu Cheng's second battle. Among all the people present, only she and Coach Shi knew how abnormal Cheng's physical strength was. As long as he was not injured in the previous battle, this battle was equivalent to a new appearance, and there was a small possibility that he would win. Can he really defeat Fearless Squad? She whispered to herself. Geezer sure snorted, "That depends on whether the opponent is shameless." On the ring, Lu Qing stood calmly, waiting for Dong Yi to approach step by step. Right now, his momentum was like a rainbow, and he was full of confidence in himself. Chapter 134. In the seats of Songqing University Martial Arts Club, Li Mao and Guo Qing sat down again. They were whispering excitedly to each other. "Do you think Sheng can continue to work hard and defeat Dong Yi?" Sun Jian looked at the arena and asked with both expectation and worry. Li Mao didn't turn his head. He watched Dong Yi climb up the stairs and said excitedly, "I think there is a big chance. I went to Cheng's private forum and read his information and previous competition videos. I found that he is indeed talented in physical strength. As long as he didn't get hurt in the competition with Wei Xingtian, he shouldn't consume too much energy. He is at a disadvantage when facing Dong Yi, but he can completely suppress him. You've seriously watched Cheng's competition videos? Sun Jian asked in surprise. To be honest, after discovering Lu Cheng's meteoric rise to become the main force of the martial arts club, he had also looked up the relevant information. However, he had only swallowed the information in order to get a general understanding. After all, Cheng was his teammate, not his enemy. Why should he waste his time to study him in detail? Li Mao smiled bitterly and said, I'm just curious. If anyone was in his position, it was impossible not to be curious. After witnessing Lu Cheng's transformation from a true newbie to a skilled beginner, it seemed that he had become much more powerful than himself in just a short time. How could he not be curious about this? Did he not want to understand the details? If he didn't, he wouldn't be able to recover from the shock. Sun Jian didn't ask and said with a smile, I hope Cheng still has energy left after defeating Dong Yi and help me exhaust Tan Ming, then I have a good chance of ending the competition. They only thought of winning 1 or 2 rounds and going home with dignity. But now they suddenly realized that they might be able to win the whole competition. Qiu Yang was injured and there was only one professional 9th pin fighter left. But Lu Cheng was famous for his physical strength. They didn't dare to say that they would win, but at least they had a 40% to 40% chance of winning now. Sitting in front of them, Yan Zhika was silently cheering and praying. Hearing the discussion behind her, she felt a little harsh. Everyone was too confident in Cheng. Usually, when they praised Cheng like this, she would be so happy that she couldn't hide her smile. But now they were facing a strong opponent and the result was not clear yet. Couldn't they be more low-key and not give Cheng bad advice? Was he messed up because of his concern? She couldn't hold it in any longer. She turned around, put her palms together, smiled apologetically, and pleaded, please don't say it, accumulate good karma, let's keep a low profile and accumulate good karma. Sun Jian, Li Mao, and the others immediately realized what was going on. They all covered their mouths in different ways, indicating that they understood. At the same time, they were a little jealous of Lu Cheng. His girlfriend's gesture, expression, and eyes were so adorable. The group of gamblers who were watching the live broadcast collapsed on the sofa one by one. Their faces were ashen, and they were dumbstruck. The leader muttered to himself with a blank look in his eyes. There doesn't seem to be anything wrong with eating by looking at the sky, what's the use of analyzing the strength of the bets? At this moment, the young man who had suggested to buy in the opposite direction of He Xiaowei suddenly realized something. Big brother, there's no problem now. That toxic healer commentator is now leaning towards Songqing University Martial Arts Club. This was the protection of the mysterious power. Hearing this, the other gamblers were instantly revived and began to watch the competition attentively. Although Lu Cheng was full of confidence, it didn't mean that he would look down on a fighter of professional 9th pin. When he saw Dong Yi walking up the ring step by step, the opponent's information naturally appeared in his mind. This ordinary-looking man was 28 years old this year. He was the oldest and the most low-key one among the 3 main members of the Fearless Squad. His ancestors were from a famous martial arts family in Yimo. It was said that they originated from Shangqing sect. Even the family's martial arts, Rolling Thunder Palm, was derived from one of the unique skills of the Thunder sect. However, after experiencing the changes of the country and getting rid of the old and ushering in the new, the Dong family had declined for many generations. Only Dong Yi was left. Dong Yi didn't open a martial arts school. Instead, he became a high school teacher. In his spare time, he participated in various small challenge tournaments and received a lot of prize money. He didn't rely on his salary to make a living. This time, he was invited by Wei Xingtian. He was moved by the prospect of advancing in the division and was tempted by the hope of stepping into the Dan stage. His Rolling Thunder Palm was closely related to fast and fierce. It was a completely different style from Wei Xingtian and Qiu Yang. His fighting style was more flexible and agile. However, once he grasped the opportunity, his palm could crack stones and was as fast as thunder. It had a terrifying ability to burst out in a short period of time. It wasn't inferior to strength. In the rolling thunder palm, there was also a unique skill called Thunderbolt Blast. It was a sound attack similar to lion's roar. There was thunder in the belly and the sound from the mouth, shaking the opponent's ear and causing dizziness. For this kind of martial arts, before the martial arts reached a certain level, there was really no way to defend. One could only prepare in advance and leave some thoughts. Once encountered, one would immediately bite the tip of the tongue and other methods to quickly wake up and avoid the follow-up attack. However, if one was distracted to guard against this skill, the power of one's fists and feet would be reduced. It would be impossible to concentrate and go all out, which would weaken one's strength in disguise. Therefore, under certain circumstances, as the old saying goes, some martial arts are more threatening when not used than when used. Lu Cheng's power of blaze actually had a similar function. Unfortunately, it was not as good as Dong Yi's Thunderbolt Blast. Martial arts practitioners had rough skin and thick flesh. Once they were mentally prepared, the possibility of subconsciously shaking their hands after being burned was very low. There was no need to deliberately be distracted, unless the strength and temperature of the power of blaze was increased. Such a professional ninth pin was indeed not someone he could guarantee to win. Lu Cheng was very clear. He wouldn't put himself in a higher position than other professional ninth pin fighters just because he defeated Wei Xingtian in a tag team battle. Not to mention that there was a little luck factor just now. If he underestimated the enemy who was similar to or just a little weaker than himself, a disastrous end was foreseeable. It was unknown how many famous martial artists were ultimately ruined by this blind arrogance. There was even a lack of people who paid the price with their lives. Lu Cheng slightly moved both of his arms and felt their current situation. After the fierce battle with Wei Xingtian, although his physical strength was as good as before and there was no consumption, there were some hard wounds on the corresponding parts of his arms. Moreover, his mental and physical strength were almost exhausted. He had to rely on emotional outbursts and a strong momentum to maintain his peak state. The Jin Dan could heal fatigue and maintain physical strength, but it couldn't heal injuries and also couldn't restore mental exhaustion. How could he not rack his brains when fighting with a strong opponent like Wei Xingtian? Whether it was the unusually focused investment, the calm and firm judgment, or the belief to overcome nervousness and fear, it caused a lot of consumption of the so-called mental and physical strength. Once the mental and physical strength was consumed too much, there would be a phenomenon of thinking sluggishness, trance, and not being able to react in time. That was a big taboo in martial arts competitions. As for the Thunder Roar Zen, he was only able to use it under the condition of Wei Xingtian's help in suppressing and withdrawing. Although he also had some experience, opened the door, and found the direction, but if he really wanted to cross the threshold, he still needed a certain amount of time to explore, try, and temper. Just like what his master said, breakthrough was a process, not a node. He stood in the center with a high momentum, but calmly and steadily, watching Dong Yi go up the ring and stand on the other side of the referee. Dong Yi suppressed the mixed feelings in his heart, and his ears were filled with cheers one after another. Dong Yi. Come on. It was still a response type of cheering, but it was more than a level lower than the previous roar. Dong Yi could even hear the fear and uneasiness of the fear of failure contained in it. Am I their life-saving straw? Dong Yi closed his eyes and suddenly opened them again. Behind him was only Tan Ming of amateur first pin. If he couldn't beat Lu Cheng in this match, or caused him to be injured, the result could be imagined. Although Fearless Squad was strong, there was no way back. At this moment, the referee didn't give Lu Cheng a chance to recover, and shouted loudly, "Start." Dong Yi immediately visualized a flash of lightning in his mind. He bounced his waist and back, and the strength went through the soles of his feet, and pounced on Lu Cheng as fast as thunder. Lu Cheng had already adjusted his body to let his center of gravity flow like mercury, so that he could display his strength better than a professional ninth pin fighter. At this moment, as his waist and back wriggled, there seemed to be a round ball in his body, and it drove him to the side of Dong Yi like a ghost. But because his opponent was too fast, he couldn't pull away. Seeing this, Dong Yi didn't turn around. He stomped his feet, and his left elbow hit out horizontally with a snap, fast and fierce. Lu Qing put his left foot inward, straightened his back, tightened his right arm, and suddenly pressed down, just in time to block this fierce elbow attack. But at this moment, Dong Yi used the blocked elbow as a fulcrum, and with a snap, he threw out his forearm, and hit Lu Cheng's genitals with a crisp palm. The whole movement was done in one breath, and it was extremely fierce. Snap! Lu Cheng's left hand had been waiting there for some time, and it blocked the attack without panic. And this was all because he and Yan Zhika had carefully studied the video of Dong Yi's fight a few days ago. In today's society, martial arts competitions were flourishing, and the spread of fighting videos was fast because of the internet, showing a trend of a big explosion of information. Every fighter only needed to fight a few more times, and his future opponents would thoroughly study his moves, and many of his killer moves and unique moves would no longer be unexpected. This was something that the ancient fighters couldn't imagine. In their view, it was right to defeat all the geniuses with one move. Today, they killed a strong opponent in the south with this move, and tomorrow, they would go to the north without knowing anything about it. In addition, the challenge tournament was a life and death battle with a referee, which only reduced the death and disability rate. Apart from the psychological aspect, it was not much different from reality, which attracted the participation of strong fighters. Therefore, the number of fights that the fighters of today had in their lives was probably 10 times or even 100 times more than those of their predecessors, and in every fight, they had almost no secrets. They had to constantly explore and innovate their moves in order to defeat their opponents. Under the pressure of this almost cruel environment, the fighters of the same level in modern times would definitely be better than those in ancient times. Dong Yi had a deep understanding of this. Failing to succeed in one move, he immediately took advantage of the rebound force to withdraw his left arm, so as not to be caught by Lu Cheng's big and small hand wrap, and enter the field of listening skill, which he was best at. Seeing Dong Yi retreat, Lu Cheng immediately slid forward, tightened his thigh muscles, and kicked out with the tip of his foot, aiming at his opponent's ankle. He wanted to use the fierceness and madness of the brutal blizzard, combined with the rainbow-like momentum that defeated Wei Xingtian, and completely suppress his opponent. Chapter 135. In the face of Lu Cheng's following low kick, Dong Yi had no time to retreat. He could only twist his waist and pull out his leg. Using his leg as his foot, he straightened his leg and kicked out. Bam! When the 2 feet collided, Lu Cheng's calf tightened. He pushed his knee and directed the rebounding force to his thigh and then to his waist and abdomen, straightening his spine. He used Dong Yi's foot as the ground to complete the second force. His right hand punched out quickly and fiercely. After numerous actual battles, especially the diversion force during the fierce battle with Wei Xingtian today, his mastery of the 24 blizzard strike seemed to have improved to a higher level. He was actually able to connect the follow-up attacks in such an unimaginable way. There was really a feeling of continuous howling of the brutal blizzard. Dong Yi originally wanted to take advantage of the situation to dodge and open up the distance. He wanted to deal with it with his best flexible fighting style. However, before he could do anything, Lu Cheng's attacks came one after another. They were crazy and fierce, leaving no chance for him. He had no choice but to hurriedly raise his left arm, retract his right foot and step on the ground. He lowered his center of gravity, turned his waist and back fiercely, vibrating his joints and sending out a swing force. Bang! Lu Cheng's fist hit the middle of his arm. His body shook involuntarily. However, because his opponent reacted hastily and he had a lot of experience, he stepped on the ground with his right foot, wriggled his spine, straightened his waist and pulled his body back. Then he shook his left arm and shot out his fist like a spear, forcing Dong Yi to give up dodging again and hit him with his palm. This made Lu Cheng very happy. He launched 24 blizzard strikes one after another, constantly borrowing strength and taking advantage of the situation. Each punch was heavier than the previous one, and each kick was fiercer than the previous one. The more he fought, the crazier and fiercer he became. The cheers of the audience gradually died down, as if they were holding their breath. Dong Yi was on the verge of collapsing under the violent snowstorm. He knew that if this continued, he would be beaten to a pulp. His opponent's current aura gave him a feeling of crushing everything in its path. I can't wait any longer. With a twist of his waist and back, he abruptly pushed his feet inward and sent a violent spiral force to the ground. The ring immediately trembled, like a house that was shaking in the thunder. There was a faint clanging sound that reverberated in the air. Dong Yi's shoes burst open. His palms were like rolling thunder, fiercely and terrifyingly striking towards Lu Cheng. Lu Cheng continued to borrow strength. At this moment, his momentum was at its peak, so he wasn't afraid. He visualized the lightning and fire stance and mega avalanche. He lowered his center of gravity and leaned his arched leg to one side to support himself against the ground. With a mighty and unstoppable momentum, he swung his right arm and struck out a mountain blast punch. He met attack with attack, met force with force, and did not retreat an inch. Bang! With one fist against two palms, Lu Cheng and Dong Yi's bodies both swayed backwards. They were evenly matched. At this moment, Dong Yi's abdomen suddenly wriggled, and his throat opened. Go! Thunderclaps exploded, the sound of thunder shook the heavens. Lu Cheng didn't expect Dong Yi to use his unique skill in such a situation. His head buzzed for a moment. Waves seemed to appear in his frozen heart lake, forming a whirlpool and breaking the ice layer continuously. This made him feel dizzy, and his throat was almost filled with the smell of rust. He could no longer maintain his center of gravity and stumbled backward. Fortunately, he didn't underestimate Dong Yi. He maintained a cautious posture and bit the tip of his tongue at the critical moment. The stinging pain woke Lu Cheng up instantly. He quickly adjusted his center of gravity and kept the momentum of retreating, hoping to increase the distance and avoid the continuous attacks. However, Dong Yi didn't feel good after using his killing moves. He took a step back and then pounced again. He visualized the speed of thunder in his mind. He bounced his back and caught up with Lu Cheng in a few steps. His right palm formed a knife and suddenly chopped towards his opponent's throat. Lu Cheng just regained his balance and didn't have time to react. He could only twitch his shoulder and raise his right arm to block in front of his body. Bang! When the knife palm chopped Lu Cheng's arm, Dong Yi's left hand formed a bird's beak and quietly poked out, pecking at Lu Cheng's waist. Right palm leading, left palm poking, silent attack. This was the most dangerous killing move. Once the peck hit, Lu Cheng's waist would be crippled. At this moment, Lu Cheng, whose heart lake had been frozen again, suddenly felt his hair stand on end, as if he had sensed some kind of danger. Although he hadn't learned the basics of Ice Mirror, after so many days of hard practice, his condensation stance's sensing ability had improved a lot. With the advantage of his advanced meditation, he could simulate some of the feeling of absolute reaction. However, some was still some. Lu Cheng could only sense the change of his hair standing on end. He couldn't sense how and where the enemy attacked. Without thinking, he tightened his right thigh and gave a fierce side kick to Dong Yi's genitals. He was using offense as defense. Dong Yi certainly wouldn't trade his life for Lu Cheng's waist. Seeing this, he gave up the dark thunder palm, lowered his center of gravity, and quickly pressed down his left palm to block Lu Cheng's kick. Lu Cheng withdrew his kick, turned around, and swept out his left leg. Bam! His left leg straightened like a soft whip and kicked towards Dong Yi's knee joint, forcing his opponent to block with his leg. After the collision and rebound, Lu Cheng took advantage of the momentum and launched a brutal blizzard attack again, bringing the situation back to the beginning. From the moment Dong Yi used the thunderbolt explosion, to the moment everything calmed down and returned to normal, the entire audience seemed to have experienced a great drama with ups and downs. Their cheers and encouragement for Dong Yi's victory had just reached their throats, but before they could reach their mouths, they abruptly stopped and were forcefully swallowed back down. Yan Zhika in the Songqing University Martial Arts Club seat didn't have much reaction. Compared to the battle between Lu Cheng and Wei Xingtian, the danger just now seemed to be nothing. Deep in her heart, she seemed to be sure that Lu Cheng would be able to resolve the crisis. Of course, worry, nervousness, fear and other emotions were instinctive and couldn't be completely controlled. This made her body tremble slightly, and her hands unconsciously clenched, as if she was praying. Behind Yan Zhika, Sun Jian, Li Mao and the others let out a long sigh. Until now, they had just walked out of the danger just now. After a while, Dong Yi once again felt the terror of Lu Cheng getting fiercer and fiercer. He almost had the illusion that Lu Cheng would never stop. He took a deep breath, as if there was a thunder in his body, pulling at his abdomen. Open. Another thunderbolt from the clear sky, and Lu Cheng's movement slowed down. But compared to the killing move that he had planned for a long time, Dong Yi's hasty outbreak this time was not strong enough to make Lu Cheng feel dizzy. He also knew this, so he didn't want to hurt his enemy. He dodged to the side and opened up the distance with thunder-shocking steps. Lu Cheng took a deep breath, straightened his waist and back, and strode forward, chasing after him. Mixed with the momentum of defeating Wei Xingtian and the crazy attack just now, he showed the power of chasing after a desperate enemy bravely. Dong Yi's speed was faster than Lu Cheng, but he didn't have the ability of mercurial balance, so he wasn't as flexible as his opponent. And the arena was limited, so he couldn't just run in a straight line. He had to watch every time he changed his direction and position. The distance between him and Lu Cheng would be shortened, making them closer and closer. Even I, a newcomer in the arena, began to feel tired, but he didn't show any sign of weakening after 2 fierce fights. Dong Yi's heart skipped a beat, knowing that he couldn't get rid of Lu Cheng. Seeing Lu Cheng was so powerful, like an overbearing and horrible statue, his spirit was immediately taken away and his courage was shaken. Lu Cheng caught up with Dong Yi in large strides, raised his left hand, and smashed his fist down toward Dong Yi's neck. Seeing this scene, the entire audience seemed to have vaguely sensed something and fell silent again. Seeing Lu Cheng's punch, Dong Yi's eyes suddenly shrank. He didn't block it with his palm, but straightened his waist and straightened his spine, forcibly moving an inch to his left. At the same time, his left hand was as fast as thunder, poking at Lu Cheng's right chest. This change happened in a flash. Lu Cheng didn't expect that Dong Yi would completely give up defense, so he didn't have time to break the inertia to avoid the blow. He could only lean to the left, letting Dong Yi's palm graze his chest and poke the inside of his right arm. Yan Zhika jumped up. In the heart-wrenching pain, Lu Cheng's left fist also hit Dong Yi's right shoulder. Crack! Dong Yi's shoulder collapsed, and his bones were broken. Enduring the pain, Lu Cheng resolutely attacked. His left arm bounced back, shook violently, and hit Dong Yi's temple. It was time to see who was more ruthless and faster. Bam! A palm blocked his left fist. The referee looked at Dong Yi, who had given up resistance, and raised his other hand, saying loudly, "Lu Cheng wins." Until now, Lu Cheng finally had time to reflect on the change just now. He covered the wound on his right arm with his hand and asked puzzledly, "Why bother? It's just a preliminaries, not a critical moment for qualifying. Why bother to exchange a broken shoulder for a minor injury? Why bother?" Dong Yi smiled bitterly and seemed to sigh, "I can only play this role." The spectators in the stands finally understood and suddenly shouted in unison, "That's right. Dong Yi! Dong Yi! Dong Yi!" Their voices were a little sad, but also deeply moved. Dong Yi was creating a chance for the last player to win. Dong Yi! Dong Yi! Dong Yi! Hearing the cheers in the stadium, Lu Cheng didn't make any hand gestures this time. He was moved by the tragic atmosphere, but he also enjoyed the tragedy of his enemy. He was quite satisfied to be able to beat the arrogant Yimo audience into a tragic state. He didn't tell Dong Yi out of kindness that he had exhausted a lot of his mental strength and was about to reach his limit. If he persevered for one more round, his chance would come. In the Fearless Squad's seating area, Tan Ming stood up instinctively and walked towards the arena blankly. At this moment, Chiu Yang behind him shouted, "Go to the competition supervisor and report your injury. Ask for a substitute player." Tan Ming turned around and whispered in astonishment, I'm not injured." Chiu Yang had already walked in front of him. He supported him with his left hand and leaned to one side to block the camera. His right hand secretly punched out and hit his abdomen. Tan Ming bent down and heard Chiu Yang say in a low voice, "You're injured now." The pain finally woke Tan Ming up. He remembered that the big boy in front of him had a very popular nickname in Yimo. Mad Dog. Mad Dog, Chiu Yang. Even if a martial artist's physique was outstanding and his recovery ability was extremely strong, he would not be able to fight again for at least 50 to 60 days before reaching the inhuman level. By then, the group matches would have ended long ago. Wouldn't it be stupid to miss the next 5 matches just for this one match? How much hatred and resentment. While Yen Jika felt distressed, confused and indignant, Geezer Shi replied with a sigh. There are too many bigoted people in this world, and there are also too many bystanders who can't understand what they value. With fearless squad strength and martial artist style, without today's incident, when Chiu Yang returns and Wei Xingtian is alive and kicking again, how would Dong Yi have the chance to be remembered? Maybe he won't even be able to go on stage. The 2 people in front will take care of everything. After being ignored for so long, I have a desire to prove myself. Maybe this is a kind of martial artist spirit. Wei Xingtian majored in bright stone skill. Lu Qing had restrained his strength at the end and used a delicate force, so although he was hit hard just now, in fact, he was not seriously injured. For him, what was more uncomfortable was that his internal organs were shaken. After a few days of rest, he would be able to recover to his peak state. Yen Jika was born in a martial arts family, so she could understand. She nodded silently to show that she understood. But even so, she still disliked Dong Yi and still felt distressed for Lu Qing. In the live broadcast room, the host of Yimo local TV station was shocked by the resolute and tragic scene. After a long time, he murmured, "It's not necessary." "Xiao Wei, what do you think?" Xiao Wei smacked his lips and said, "This match is a bit tragic. If not for the background, I would have thought it was the key battle for the qualification of Songqing Division. Dong Yi's courage is admirable, but I can't understand his choice. With fearless squad strength, losing this match won't be so bad that they can't qualify. They have already defeated another popular team, Azure Dragon Squad, in the last match. The following matches are all opponents who are obviously weaker than them. Losing a match would at most be a loss of face. But now, I'm afraid Dong Yi will miss all the following group matches. Whether he can participate in the knockout match in May depends on his recovery. The loss outweighs the gain. Of course, with only the recovered Chiu Yang and Wei Xingtian, Fearless Squad will be able to defeat the weak in the following group matches. It's not a big problem even without Dong Yi. When they challenged Azure Dragon Squad in an away match, didn't Chiu Yang win 2 matches in a row? Wei Xingtian won the last match, and Dong Yi disguised as a coach to watch and cheer? Fearless Squad was led by Wei Xingtian without a coach. As for Lu Cheng's group, the favorites to qualify were Yimo's Fearless Squad, with 1 dance stage and 2 professional 9th pin fighters, and Songqing's Azure Dragon Squad, with 4 professional 9th pin fighters. If their strength was compared horizontally, in Shushan's division, they could directly enter the second stage of the preliminaries. In many divisions, even if there was only 1 professional 9th pin fighter leading the team, there was still hope for the team to qualify and participate in the knockout round. In the middle of Lu Cheng's group, there were 2 professional 9th pin fighters in Hong Luo Squad and Songqing University Martial Arts Club members. The other 4 teams were relatively weak. 2 teams only had 1 professional 9th pin fighter, and the other 2 teams were purely amateur teams who came to see and experience because there were no restrictions in the preliminaries. In other words, even if Fearless Squad were to lose the match with Lu Cheng's team, the only opponent with any weight behind them would be Hong Luo Squad. Moreover, it would be in the last round. Although Xiao Wei was exaggerating a little by saying that the rest of the competition would be Hung Luo squad, he wasn't wrong. The TV host listened and agreed. He couldn't understand Dong Yi's choice, so he could only smooth things over. No matter what, Dong Yi showed us the courage and spirit of a fighter. Xiao Wei, what do you think of the next match? Xiao Wei laughed and said, although Lu Cheng's hand is temporarily disabled, he has mercurial balance and abnormal physical strength. Why would he be afraid of an amateur first-pin fighter? He will exhaust his opponent to death. Even if Lu Cheng reaches his limit halfway, Songqing University Martial Arts Club has other fighters. I think Fearless Squad will lose 99% of the time. As soon as he finished, the TV host heard the director's prompt, and his expression suddenly became strange. Xiao Wei, Fearless Squad's third fighter, Tan Ming, suddenly fell ill and can't fight. He will be replaced by a substitute. Xiao Wei couldn't help but chuckle. Are you scared? Are you scared? The TV host quickly added, the substitute is Qiu Yang. Xiao Wei was stunned and said, it's a bit interesting. The gamblers watching the live broadcast cheered and almost ran to tell others. Good news, good news. That toxic healer commentator supported Songqing University Martial Arts Club. And as soon as he supported, he immediately turned the situation around. In Lu Cheng's private forum, which was originally full of content such as, pity, is the opponent stupid, beat another professional ninth pin fighter, and so on, suddenly exploded. All the good names are taken by dogs, was the first to post, damn, where's your shame? This is completely shameless. So angry, but I still have to keep a smile. Lu Cheng has won 2 rounds in a row, and he has earned enough. Eternal Nightfall, Yan Shaoling followed. Unparalleled Dragon King said weakly, according to the rules, it's normal for a substitute to fight. Otherwise, why would there be a substitute? But the sudden illness is too fake. There were regulations on the conditions under which a substitute could fight. It was not something that could be changed by the coach on a whim. In that case, the list and order of the 3 main fighters would not be necessary. It was completely possible to decide who would fight first and put the original main fighters on the substitute. Depending on the situation, the order of replacement could be arranged flexibly. Therefore, the competition supervisor had to confirm that the main fighters were injured, sick, or mentally broken before they could be replaced. Generally speaking, it was a last resort. Nye Chi said bitterly, even if they shamelessly win this time, with the speed of Lu Cheng and Lin Kei's growth, they can win the knockout round after the group competition. At that time, we can block them at the entrance of the qualification. That's the best way to vent our anger. I still want to say, beat that mad dog. Brahman shouted. Humph, kids don't need to think about reality anyway. Damn, I'm still waiting for Ching to fight 1 against 3. In Songqing University's dormitory, Kai Zhongming blurted out. His roommates cursed for a while before calming down. Zhao Cheng pushed his black-rimmed glasses and said, it's worth it to lose since they can force Fearless Squad to this point. It doesn't matter anymore. Classmate Little Ming looked at him, sadly. But I placed a bet, although it was not much, it was still 200. In Songqing University Martial Arts Club's seating area, Yanjika wasn't angry. Instead, she solved the lingering doubts in her heart. She turned to look at Coach Shi and said, they are really shameless. She wasn't angry or surprised, but she was very disappointed and distressed. She felt that Lu Cheng's all-out battle was wasted, and that Cheng's injury and pain just now were not worth it. Geezer Shi snorted, to put it in a better way, Fearless Squad is full of abnormal desire for victory. Beside and behind him, Li Mao and the others loosened their clenched fists and sighed. Lin Kei closed his eyes and seemed to exhale softly. Qiu Yang. Qiu Yang. Qiu Yang. Seeing Qiu Yang walking into the ring, the desperate and tragic audience suddenly burst into thunderous cheers, making this name reverberate in every corner of the martial arts arena. Lu Cheng, who was sleeping in the middle of the ring, felt that everything around him was being pulled away and separated from him. Although he vaguely felt that the sound around him suddenly became louder, he couldn't hear clearly what the audience was shouting. After a while, he felt something in his heart and suddenly opened his eyes. He saw a big boy walking up the stone steps. "Qiu-yang?" Lu Qing blurted out in surprise. Qiu-yang was also puzzled. He frowned slightly and said, "You just found out? You should have known from the moment the match supervisor checked Tan Ming's physical condition, right?" "I fell asleep just now." Lu Qing answered silently. Of course, he didn't say it out loud. He felt that his answer would make him look wrong, yes. He maintained an unfathomable smile and didn't explain anything. At the same time, he took a light breath and felt that his head was much clearer. Chapter 137. Lu Qing seized the time to recover a little so that his thinking and reaction would not slow down immediately. But he also paid a price. He had just learned that his opponent had been replaced by Qiu-yang, so he had no time to carefully recall Qiu-yang's match images and relevant information. Fortunately, Qiu-yang's fighting style was distinctive and his personal characteristics were very strong, which left a deep impression on him. Now, after a little thinking, many key points naturally emerged, so he was not at a loss. Qiu-yang, nicknamed Mad Dog, was the type who fought desperately and crazily. He was the type who was not afraid of death and seldom defended or simply dodged. He liked to attack with attack, take risks and seize opportunities. He liked to sacrifice himself to win. This fighting style seemed to be quite simple, as long as one was fierce and courageous enough. But after careful analysis, one could taste the martial arts level involved in it. In a fight between masters, it was not always possible to sacrifice oneself to win. There would not be a situation where one would fearlessly attack the enemy's vital points when he was about to be hit and rely on the referee to stop the fight to win, because there was no such opportunity. In such a situation, the underdog would have no time to attack the enemy's vital points. If he forced himself to attack, he would be heavily injured in advance, making the counterattack weak and even abruptly stopped. Just like in the battle between Lu Qing and Dong Yi, when faced with the Dark Thunder Palm, Lu Qing did use a side kick to force his opponent to give up the killing move. However, the key point was not the side kick. Because of his preemptive reaction, Dong Yi would have cursed him for being an idiot and then calmly stabbed him in the waist. It would have been so painful that Lu Qing couldn't use his strength and kick out his leg. If this was not enough, Dong Yi's hand was already on Lu Cheng's waist and pressed down and blocked. Who could complete the side kick? Therefore, using the method of attacking the enemy's vital points to win the enemy's compromise not only relied on courage, guts and ruthlessness, but also on vision, insight, judgment and the martial arts level to seize the opportunity. Without the latter, only the former would be underage gangsters. If they competed with courage and ruthlessness, they were definitely strong enough, but could they win against a professional master? They would probably be beaten so badly that even their mothers would not recognize them after one round. With an accurate judgment, a perfect grasp of timing, and a martial prowess that was sufficient to support the completion of one's thoughts, in addition to one's courage and determination, one would be able to exchange injuries for death by attacking one's vital points, forcing the other party to have no choice but to first protect themselves. Even if the opponent was a lunatic and did not change, the referee would still intervene and easily determine the final victor. That was because in a situation where there was no referee, it was clear who was injured and who was killed. The one who survived would definitely be considered the winner. Dong Yi's last poke at Lu Qing was a perfect combination of vision, judgment, timing, and courage. Of course, it was also because Lu Qing didn't expect Dong Yi to have such a crazy idea. Once he was mentally prepared and knew Dong Yi's style, with his mercurial balance, there was a good chance that he could hurt Dong Yi and dodge the attack at the same time. If there was a desperate fight where both sides were injured, the referee would usually not intervene if it did not result in death or disability. However, if the opportunity was equal and both sides were likely to die together or be disabled, the referee would decide to call it a draw after stopping the fight. This was not unprecedented. Of course, there was bound to be some wrangling. For example, if someone said, "I've just mastered the iron crotch technique, so I'm not afraid of being kicked in the groin," or, "I've just reached the invincible Vajra realm, so it doesn't matter if my vital points are attacked," then the referee would ask for a demonstration and change the decision according to the facts. In this, the referee was very important, but they were not omnipotent. There would be times when they could not stop it, and death and injury were inevitable. There were similar cases every year, but the relative probability was not high, even lower than car accidents. Even so, the official competition would also buy corresponding personal insurance for all the participants. Every life and every disability would be investigated by the police department to confirm that there was no collusion or intentional negligence. If there was, it would be considered murder. As for the competition between the physical and vulnerability experts, the referee could not intervene. If the strength was not enough, he would not even dare to stay in the arena. Anyway, it was easy to injure experts of this level, but difficult to kill or cripple them, so there was no need to worry too much about them. All in all, Qiu Yang had not only relied on his viciousness and courage to survive until now, but also his martial arts level and judgment. He was the best of the best. Whoever looked down on him because of his nickname and fighting style would definitely end up in a miserable state. Moreover, Lu Qing noticed something. According to the data, Qiu Yang had several experiences of forfeiting. When facing an enemy 1 or 2 levels higher than him, he would always forfeit without exception. In other words, he was very clear-headed and knew that if he encountered a strong enemy with the mad dog style, it was very likely that he would be seriously injured, and nothing could be exchanged for it. He was a very rational, mad dog. While Lu Cheng was thinking, Qiu Yang had already stood in position and set up his stance. The referee raised his right hand and announced the start of the match. As if he had received the order to start running, Qiu Yang sprang up and rushed to Lu Cheng like an arrow. His eyes were crazy and his momentum was overwhelming, as if he wanted to raise everything in front of him to the ground and tear it into pieces. Lu Cheng had come up with a strategy for this battle, which was to rely on his mercurial balance to fight for a long time. This was because similar crazy fighting style without any regard for one's own safety was a little bit like Qing Yaojin's 3 axes. Once they were dragged for a long time, their spirit would be dulled, and their madness would be reduced. They would be on the verge of failure. Qiu Yang's previous battle videos could fully prove this point. However, facing the enemy's advance, Lu Qing did not immediately use the mercurial balance to dodge. He felt that under such momentum, once he flinched and dodged, it was very likely that he would subconsciously become timid, which would gradually reduce his morale. Then he would be chased by Qiu Yang like a defeated army. Therefore, even if he wanted to fight with the mad dog, he had to fight with the enemy for a while to reduce his momentum. Lu Cheng's eyes reflected Qiu Yang's figure. When Qiu Yang was about to approach him, he suddenly twisted his waist, tightened his thighs, and kicked his knee. This was a well-behaved move, which was also a good choice in the situation where it was difficult to use the right hand. But Qiu Yang, as his nickname, did not use his leg to block the kick, nor did he hastily change his direction. Instead, he jumped up in a way that violated the taboo of fighting at this level. Like a ferocious eagle, he leaped over the kick and extended his right hand, preparing to hit Lu Cheng's temple from the side. At the same time, he bent his body and positioned his legs, waiting for a series of stomps on Lu Cheng's chest. Attacking from the top and the bottom, it was hard to defend. Ruthless and crazy. If Lu Cheng could use his right hand, he would have a lot of choices at this time, such as using his arm to block the kick, or using his elbow to protect his face. Then he would learn from Lin Kei's continuous attacks and shake Qiu Yang away, and seize the opportunity to attack. But now, he could only use one hand, and his right leg had not been withdrawn in time. He could only protect his head, but not his chest. At the critical moment, Lu Cheng suddenly leaned back, rolled to the left, and kicked out his right leg again, making it like a tight whip, fiercely lashing at Qiu Yang, who could not change his direction in midair. Iron Bridge, dragon turning over. After this fall and kick, Lu Cheng not only avoided the attack on his temple and chest, but also completed the counterattack. With his left hand on the ground, his whip leg exploded the air fiercely and terrifyingly. Chiu Yang had to squirm his spine and kick out his legs to avoid this dangerous attack. Bang! Lu Qing took advantage of the momentum and stood up again, while Chiu Yang fell a few steps away. As soon as he touched the ground, he straightened his knees and threw himself at Lu Qing again without any hesitation. His momentum was extremely crazy. Facing this, Lu Qing saw that the position was suitable, so he shook his left arm and shot out like a big gun to Chiu Yang's face. Chiu Yang's spine squirmed like a dragon trying to break free from its shackles. He slid to the right and came behind Lu Qing. Then he clenched his right hand into a fist and hit the spine, fast and hard. During this process, he stood in a very clever place, closer to Lu Qing's right side, taking advantage of the fact that Lu Qing's right hand was injured and could not fight back. At this moment, Lu Qing swung his center of gravity and bounced to the left, which made him move quickly and avoid Chiu Yang's dragon-catching punch. After the iron plank bridge dragon ascension, he adjusted his body muscles so that he was in the state of mercurial balance. He was not careless about Chiu Yang's punch. He did not try to twist his waist and pull his leg because he was afraid that Chiu Yang would lower himself and roll under him. Then he would perform the shoulder kick or monkey steals the peach. It was risky for an attacker, but Chiu Yang would do it according to his style. Seeing that Lu Qing moved away, Chiu Yang stepped on the ground and made an explosion in the depth of the arena. Then he continued to attack crazily. As if there was a ball in his body, Lu Qing turned again, but he did not escape. Instead, he swung his left arm for a short fight with abrupt force. As soon as Chiu Yang approached, he visualized the mouth of a poisonous snake in his mind. He clenched his right hand and fought back without dodging. Poisonous punch. Biting force. Bang! With a strong and crisp sound, Lu Qing's fist spewed out flames and collided with Chiu Yang's right hand. Hiss! Both of them took a light breath and withdrew their hands at the same time. One of them felt like he was bitten by a sharp tooth, the other felt like he was burned by a flame. Both of them were mentally prepared and finished their follow-up actions calmly, leaving no chance for the opponent to take advantage of. Seeing this, Gizershi and Yan Zhika were puzzled. They did not understand why Lu Qing used the power of blaze, which could not affect the opponent temporarily. Could it be that he wants to take this opportunity to temper and improve his supernatural ability? Gizershi pondered. Lu Qing's idea was similar to his guess. Although his spirit had recovered a little, the mercurial balance required extreme concentration and could not be maintained for long. Therefore, he had to plan early. He planned to use the power of blaze frequently to gradually squeeze the Jin Dan and try the second awakening. He wanted to try actively. After refining his bone marrow and 5 viscera bit by bit with Thunder Roar Zen, his physical quality improved rapidly. The cultivation during the winter vacation was not in vain. He thought that he could barely bear the initial backfire. He planned to try the Thunder Roar Zen in 2 or 3 weeks when he reached the entry level. Now that he was a little ahead of schedule, it should not be a big problem. However, ideals were just ideals most of the time. After a while of guerrilla fighting with mercurial balance, he tragically found that he had no chance to use abrupt force or release flames because the opponent would not cooperate with him. If he tried it rashly, he would be defeated before he could squeeze the Jin Dan. The bitterness in his heart couldn't be felt by outsiders, but both Chiu Yang and the audience in the stands were getting more and more desperate. They couldn't see any sign of weakness from Lu Qing, and they couldn't see any possibility of his physical strength declining. It seemed that he could continue to rely on his mercurial balance and wouldn't give up until Chiu Yang was exhausted to death. Chiu Yang narrowed his eyes and seized the opportunity when they were close to each other. In his mind, he visualized a poisonous snake that shot lightning and bit people. His body trembled and his spine bent into a bow shape. Then he suddenly bounced up and pushed himself to the front of Lu Qing at a speed beyond the body refining state. He clenched his right fist and threw out the poisonous bite. Lu Qing had a deep impression of this killer move when he watched the video. He did not dodge blindly because the subsequent chain of kicks would be more terrible. He shook his left shoulder and bounced up his arm to block the punch. At the same time, he steadied his center of gravity and was ready to twist his waist and swing his leg to block the next killer move. Bang! Lu Qing suddenly realized that they were too close to each other. Qiu Yang's left hand was injured, so he couldn't punch out, leaving a huge opening for Lu Qing to attack. His right arm was seriously affected by the injury, but it did not mean that he could not use it at all. Enduring the pain and the consequences of aggravating the injury, he could still throw a punch or two. Lu Qing did not hesitate to tighten his right arm and endure the pain. Then he threw a seabed forward punch at Qiu Yang's lower abdomen. At the same time, Qiu Yang's crazy eyes locked on Lu Qing's lower abdomen. I have not used my left hand because I was waiting for this opportunity. It can't use its full strength, but it can still help me win at the critical moment. My previous patience should have completely paralyzed you. Bang! He threw a crushing punch at Lu Qing's lower abdomen. They threw out their punches quickly. Because of the difference in height and body shape, even though they were on the same side, they did not directly hit each other. Instead, they ran to the target by brushing against each other's fists. Bang! Bang! The referee reached out to block their fists. He gasped and said, "Draw, draw." Qiu Yang felt that this was the most inexplicable match he had ever fought. How could the well-prepared trap end in a draw? Lu Qing was as confused as Qiu Yang. He vaguely felt that he and Qiu Yang had made the same choice at that moment. Fortunately, I still have the desire to win, and I was brave and determined enough to not hesitate at that time. This is also good. A draw means that both of us left the stage. I still have someone behind me, but Fearless Squad has no one. In other words, we won. We won. You're tuning into the Romantic Tales YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.